Hello, and welcome to the Freedom and Flow podcast. My name is Leandra, and I'm excited to have you here today because we have a super great session. And this session and episode is very special. So I'm joined by a powerhouse woman who wears many hats, a business owner, executive coach, a facilitator, author, mother, and a woman of deep faith. And over the last 10 plus years, she's built a thriving six-figure coaching practice that helps high potential leaders and teams grow in influence, confidence, and communication. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about what it means to lead with confidence and conviction. So we're going to explore the intersection of faith and leadership and what it looks like to grow a business that honors both purpose and profit, and how to rebuild your confidence in the valleys, not just on the mountaintops. So whether you're a leader in your job, your home, or your community, this conversation will encourage you to take steps more boldly into your calling. So grab your journal or your favorite drink and let's dive into it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Freedom and Flow podcast. I am happy that you're here. This podcast is all about breaking free from the things that don't serve you, living in flow, and embracing your purpose. And this is also like a welcome back episode because we did take a little hiatus. So for those who were waiting, we're back. And we're back with another season. And I am so excited for the host, I'm the host, but I'm so excited for our guest that we have today. And by the way, I'm Leandria, I am your host. But for our guest that we have today, she is a powerhouse individual and she wears many hats. She is a business owner, an executive coach, a trainer, facilitator, author, mother, and a woman of faith. And she's even coached me in my business. And so I'm very excited to welcome Daphne Valcin to the podcast. Welcome, Daphne.
Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and so we're here today because we're talking about the confidence to lead, lessons from 11 years of coaching high-impact leaders. And so, like I mentioned, Daphne is an executive coach. She's had her business for 11 years, and she has a six-figure business. There she goes, six-figure business. So it has created results for many people and made a lot of impact. And so today we're talking about a few things, mainly confidence, leadership, and faith, and how those three things intertwine with each other, and essentially hearing a bit about Daphne and her story. But I shared a little bit about Daphne, but Daphne would love for you to just share, introduce yourself as well.
Sure. Hey, everyone. It is my pleasure to meet you virtually. I'm so taken aback when I hear Leandra talk about all the things that I do because it's a lot of things. But I'm blessed to have all these different titles that I have and to be able to also be a woman of faith as I do the things that I do. But I'm so blessed to be here and so grateful for the opportunity to share and to learn today.
Yes. So humble. I love it. So we're going to start with the icebreaker question. And so the question is, if confidence had a soundtrack, what song would be on repeat for you right now?
I feel like, can I tell you the first choice and then what I decided?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the first thing that came to mind was Mary J. Blige, the Just Fine song. I feel like everybody's just like, I'm confident, right? But then the thing that I felt in my spirit that I heard, or that I like heard in my spirit, was Yes, Shekinah Glory. So I played that song over and over and over and over and over and over again as I was launching my business. As I worked, I played it. Because I think what I was trying to remind myself of was this business is what I feel God has led me to do. So even when it's hard, I need to remember to keep going and I need to remember who I am in God. So I played it over and over again and it worked. It seemed to help keep me like inspired, motivated, focused. And at the same time, I was, of course, like open to if God was like, nah, that's not the one, like, please stop doing what you're doing and do something different. But I felt led to play that song over and over and over again and continue to put in work. So I would say yes, Shekinah Glory is the winner.
And you know what? And I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like that's like an 11-minute song.
It's
Shekinah.
long. Woo!
Fine, so you're 11 years in business.
Hey! Look at that.
It is a long song, but it is a powerful song. And also, I
Long.
love Just Fine. It's definitely puts you in a good mood.
Just
And
fine.
so, with that said, we'd love to just hear about your journey. So, what did your life career look like before coaching? And then, what led you to take that step to say, I want to start my own business?
Sure. So I was working in nonprofit management and education. So when I say nonprofit management, I mean like project manager for a nonprofit or director of community mobilization. I was an assistant director for a nonprofit. So I did these kinds of positions, and then found myself going to work in education policy as a public affairs manager. So I was a person who helped, who was responsible for getting numbers behind legislation that my organization was advocating for to close the achievement gap between students who may be lower income, maybe students of color, and their achievement in education, and then others. And how could we close that achievement gap through legislation? But I felt a leading to go back to the nonprofit world.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied to a job and got a job working for an organization called Communities in Schools. And I wanted to work my way up and be executive director. And so a few months before that, just to always try to be very transparent about the journey, two things were happening. One, at the same time that I was thinking I was going to work my way up to be executive director, I thought I should get my MBA. So I did all the things you're supposed to do when you're trying to get your MBA. I was taking a Kaplan test. I took my GMAT 3 times to get a certain score to get me in a top MBA school. I knew I was going to get a full scholarship. I was going to do it through a program that I knew of based on my score and based on other things, my GPA, all that good stuff. I was networking. I knew the schools that I wanted to go to. I knew where I wanted to work after my MBA. I met someone at a wedding who shook my hand and said, "Hey, Daphne, when you're ready to work at this consulting firm, you just let me know." So everything was lining up. Then I met my husband, and things changed because I realized the whole MBA track, go live anywhere to get my MBA, was not going to work for the kind of person that my husband was. He was more like settle down, lived in South Florida, slower city, but didn't want to leave and likes my time, a lot of my time. So then I pivoted and said, how do I bring together my tapping into the potential of people and their ideas? That was the through line with all my jobs. How do I put that together into something that might be able to grow well with my family? So the same month I took my last GMAT exam, where I got the score that I wanted. And that was my birthday month, was also the same month that I got engaged and the same month that I applied and got into coaching certification school to become a coach, and then launched my business 2 months before I got married. But the other piece that was happening that may be helpful for somebody listening right now or watching is earlier that year in 2013, that the same year that I signed up for that coaching certification, that January, I was crying. I started crying. I was at a praise dance practice. And I started crying at the end of practice and I couldn't stop crying. And other praise dancers told me outside because I couldn't stop. They said, "Get into the car. We're coming in the car with you to see what's going on." And I said, "Well, my job is ending." So my department basically was eliminated, but my boss's boss rehired me. But uh, I still was, how do I say, I still was in a place of transition. She said that she was going to give me 6 months. And then after that 6 months, I could decide to stay in the job that I was in, or I could leave, whichever one I wanted to do. So I thought I was supposed to leave. So I'm like, my job is not stay, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do after because I didn't want to stay. And then the place where I was living, I didn't like it. It was in the hood. It was in a bad neighborhood. The
Mm.
people outside were talking about doing bad things. There was domestic violence upstairs. I wanted to live by myself, but I didn't want to pay a lot of money. So
Mhm.
I didn't like where I stayed at. And then I had broken up with my boyfriend of like 3 years or 3.5 years. And I was just like, God, I don't understand why all these bad things are happening. I try to be obedient and do what you ask me to do. I know I'm a sinner, but I be trying. I try to do the right thing and I do a lot of things right. So I don't understand why everything is going wrong. Everything. I
Mm.
was so disappointed. I was lost. I didn't know what the next step was. I wanted God to give me like a hint. Like, could you give me a hint as to what's next? That was January. I
Mm.
had no idea I was going to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know that I was going to meet my husband later that year. So when I got that job, getting the job was a blessing because it was back in doing something that I thought I was supposed to be doing. It was a $10,000 pay cut, but
Mm.
it was okay. And my 2 weeks before I started work, somebody said, God is going to send you the man you've been praying for. He's about to send you the man. And I was like, okay, I'm respectful. I didn't know, I don't know her relationship with God, but I said,
Mhm.
thank you very much. And 2 weeks later, I met my husband on my first date of that new job. That was God saying, girl, I got you. Like, I'm going to take care of you. Because I didn't know what was going on. That January, I was like, Lord, do you remember me? Like, I don't know what's going on. It was really bad. So I say that because sometimes it's good for me to share the beautiful story that happened, but I think it's even better to share that I was lost,
Mm.
I was sad, I was almost frustrated. I just felt kind of hopeless. Even with my accolades, I just didn't feel like I was in the right place,
Mm.
or that I had too many things going on that were not good. But God was faithful, and that led me into doing what I'm doing now. Because I thought I was going to get an MBA after that, but
Mm.
I had other plans.
He did have other plans, and I agree. I think it's always great to talk about, to have testimony and talk about what God did, but to also kind of share the valley that you had to go through to get there. And a lot of times, most cases, the valley is where the growth happens, the character is built, the strength is created. And so I definitely hear you on that. And one thing that I feel, and based on just our interactions, is that you are a very ambitious person. That if you have a goal, you're gonna set out to do it. And you're not gonna let anything stop you. And if there's a wall, you're gonna figure out how to go around it, over it, underneath it, yeah, all those things. So my question is, how do you balance ambition with listening to where God is leading you? So how do you balance that piece of being ambitious and I have these goals, but at the same time creating space to go where God wants you to go?
That is such a good question. It is not easy. So it is not easy. I remember so many different times in my life where I've had to do that. I think it's knowing that foundationally, God cares for me
Mm,
and that He is not going to lead me astray. But I think the process of doing that requires a lot of surrender, would be the good word for that. Whew. For example, after undergrad, I thought I was going to get my MBA as well. But then I met somebody, a stranger, who was like, no, you sound like you're more about like social change. So I don't think an MBA is what you want. I think an MPA is what you want. And I was like, okay. So I canceled my GMAT exam right after undergrad. I also didn't know back then they wanted you to work for 2 years before you got your MBA. So I'm like, okay, I
mm,
could pursue this MPA. And I applied to two schools that I really wanted to, well, that I thought I wanted to go to. One I really wanted to go to. It was when online applications were just starting. And I believe that the school basically lost my application. When I pulled up my login for one school, my application for another school came up. So glitches are being worked out. And then I thought to myself, God, I laughed. I laughed when I realized what was happening. And I was like, okay, God, you must have another plan because there's no, I have no reason to be here. I was in Atlanta and I was like, I have no reason to be here. At this point, I was doing different gigs. that were really wonderful, but I just didn't think I needed to be in Atlanta. Then all of a sudden, I had 5 big job opportunities, and somebody at the young adults praise and worship said, "I pray God closes every door except for the one that's supposed to be open." And I was like, "Don't pray that prayer. Don't do that." But basically, the only door that was left open was moving to Washington, D.C. And
Oh.
I didn't like Washington, D.C. People seem too fast there versus Georgia, where people were just slower and sweet. So,
Mhm.
but to make a long story short, somebody said, maybe God wants you to be a fisher of men in DC. Maybe that's why he's sending you there. So I went there and I fell in love with DC. It was so amazing. All that to say, my plan was get my, my degree, then have it my way. And I was doing again all the right things, I thought.
Mhm.
But I remember being in my room in Atlanta and not knowing what the plan was and saying out loud, "Thank you, Lord." Just every day, just "Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord," out loud by myself in my apartment. Thank you. For some reason, I felt like that's what I was supposed to be saying. But I think that's an idea. That's an example of like surrender. And I feel like that I've had to do over and over again in life. Like,
Mhm.
oh, this is a new challenge that I wasn't expecting. Let me praise God for this situation, or let me remember what I'm grateful for, or let me chuckle a little bit. I know God has a plan in the midst of this thing. So I feel like there's a balance of like when you truly surrender and you feel God cares for you, there's a balance of being like, man, I'm in this situation, but I know God knows something that I don't know. And what can I learn from it, if anything? Sometimes I'm like, is there a lesson in this, Lord? I don't know. But yes, but I try to pull from it. But it's not easy. But I am behind the scenes, like, okay, Lord, can you can you give me a clue, or I'll just try to be obedient to whatever you're trying to tell me to do.
Mm.
But yeah, and sometimes there's no clues, but that's okay.
Sometimes there's no clues. So it's really just what I'm hearing you say is one, knowing that God cares for us, that no matter where we are, He cares for us. Even when we, kind of go a place or go a path that we're not supposed to, He still loves us. And in that, showcasing gratitude, but also having surrender too. So taking steps forward when we don't know all the steps, when we don't have all the clues. But what I'm hearing you're doing, or you have done in your life, is take steps forward. And then the other piece is the people you have in your corner, the people that are surrounding you, who have kind of given you words of knowledge of, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm thinking, which is something that you've taken to yourself and had to reflect on and say, like, is this true for me? But that supported you to figure out where you're going next. So I
Yeah.
definitely hear you on like when it comes to like being ambitious, that there's nothing wrong with being ambitious. There's nothing wrong with setting goals. But at the same time, having a heart of surrender, having people that are going to positively speak into your life, and then being open to shifting if needed and not be so
Yeah.
set
You know what I've been
on
working on
our.
recently? I agree. I agree. Want to know something I've been working on recently though? That I realize God needs
Yes.
to help me with?
Hmm.
When I make mistakes. So
Yeah.
I'm so ambitious and so used to trying to make A's at everything, like trying to get a good grade, that
Mm.
it can be really hard for me when I realize that I have missed something, or I'm not doing something in the way that someone has wanted me to do it. That
Mm.
doesn't happen as often for me, but I actually feel like when it does happen, God is I receive it as God is humbling me. And I know some people may disagree, but I'm like, yep, you're right, God. I make mistakes. I don't get everything right. You're right. I apologize. I try to fix whatever it is, but I just really don't like. Let's say if I say something and my husband is like, "Man, babe, I didn't like when you said that." I usually don't do that. Like I'm usually pretty good. But I feel really bad about that. Or With my children, I think it's become easier for me to just apologize. I try to do the right thing, do right by them.
Mhm.
But with clients in business, if I miss an email that I was supposed to respond to and I'm responding to that later than I should, or if I'm facilitating a workshop or a speaking engagement and I make a mistake, I really have to work on grace. So I think that's the lesson in this season
Mhm.
is more grace for me and more grace for others. Because I feel like when we give ourselves more grace, you'll see that in other people. And often when people don't give a lot of grace to others, they usually aren't giving a lot of grace to themselves. So more grace, I think, is the lesson in this season. Still trying to do things in excellence, but having grace
Mhm.
when we fall short because we're human.
Well, I love that. And I definitely hear you on there. There's always a flip side to things that we have strengths, and sometimes our strengths is a weakness sometimes, where we're so ambitious that we have this high level of excellence, and when we don't meet the mark, we're really condemning ourselves or we feel ashamed. So definitely I want to ask you, where do you think that stems from? Like what in your life maybe has led to just having such a high level of excellence that you have to meet or you feel like you have to meet?
Sure. I'm pretty clear that that's from my father. I'm Haitian American, so my parents are from Haiti, and stereotypically, children of immigrants are have a little bit more pressure for doing well. It's almost like when I think about it now, it's almost like for some of us, our parents came here. They know they have to work hard and they have to do some extra things to navigate a new system, right? An American system, but they're like, you are the first fruits that I have produced here in this country. So it's hard for me, but for you, it's going to be good. Like, so here's what we're going to do. Everything must be done in excellence. My dad was like, your teacher's not going to accept that paper. I was an A student. So he's like, but the handwriting is not good. So you tore it up and you got to do it again. Yeah, it's my daddy. In pre-K, we didn't have pre-K. I don't remember pre-K, but I was in preschool and my dad used to give me packets to complete by the time he got home. So it didn't matter that he was not home. The packet needed to be complete by the time I got home, and it was academic packets. He was on a board, a chalkboard, teaching me in preschool, and then every summer I had to be like 1 or 2 grade levels ahead when it came to the workbooks we did in the summer. But the expectation was perfection. And that was not only in school, but at home. So there were lots of things to do around the house. Outside, inside, I was cutting grass, I was doing landscaping, I was building things outside. I was helping my daddy while he was working on the car. So the expectation was you need to know how to work hard and persevere um, out of the house, in the house, in school, at home. So I had to already learn some grace. As soon as I left high school and went to college, I had to learn how to have more grace then. And it's a continuous process. And then I had to, as a parent, figure out how do I hold my child to high expectations or my children,
Mm.
do it in a way that's very loving and caring and with grace. So I've been working on that too. I think they would say I do a pretty good job.
I'm sure they will say that. And I think it's important to identify, if there's something in our life that we struggle with or that we see as a pattern, there's a root to it. And being able to find that root. And once you find the root, you can kind of give some context to it, awareness to it. So because it's not going to go away. If it's been part of your life for 30 plus years, it's not going to go away. But there are ways that we can regulate it and reframe it. And that's what I definitely see you doing. And so with that, I'm curious because I love how you've been vulnerable and shared as an executive leader yourself the things that you struggle in. But given the work that you've done with hundreds of other executive leaders, what would you say are kind of some patterns of struggle that you see in other leaders that the
Hmm.
audience may not be aware of?
Sure. So one, um, many of my clients are women, and what I tend to see with them, no matter what their racial background is diminishing their achievements
Mm,
and the role that they play at work. And what I see that translate into also is them pursuing positions that are below where they could apply for.
Mm.
So I might see a client and say, you could pursue a VP role if you wanted to. And they might say, well, I don't know if I'm ready because I haven't this or I haven't that, I haven't this. Whereas I don't see that as much with my male clients, but that happens with males too that I've worked with who also may not be as confident in their achievements and their impact at work, but definitely with my women clients. So that's one of the things that I
Mm.
see. Something else that I see with some clients is productivity and discipline impacting their ability to walk in where they feel God is calling them to go. So I have this framework that I created for what typically a client comes to me for. It's the case framework. The C is clarity. So maybe they're trying to figure out what their next step is in their role or for another role, or to pursue something that they're desiring to do. The A is alignment. Maybe they know what they want to do, but they're not doing it for some reason, or they know who they want to be, more confident, more executive presence, more productive, whatever it is, but they're not operating in that yet. Or they know they want a promotion, but they're just not sure how to do it, right? So where do we go from there? Then the S is strategy. So what is the specific action plan? So some people are like, well, I know already what I need to do. I've already started trying to do it, but I need an action plan to be able to get to where it is that I want to go. But the E is what I just talked about just now. See, executive routines or execution.
Mm.
So, what are the things that you need to do on a regular basis in order to be able to achieve your vision and to align with your values or whoever it is that God is calling you to be? How does that look in your meetings? How does that look in your mornings, in your evenings, in your afternoons, when you're at home, when you're at work, when you're interacting with your mentors? So that is the executive routines piece. And what I love about that is if you have that in place, then even if we're not working together, you can continue to implement
Mm.
those things that are extremely important for your future. That's the executive routines part. So I noticed that that can actually be a big issue no matter what level. The person could be C suite, senior VP, director, manager, individual contributor, and those executive routines can get in the way of them being able to show up how they want at work or at home.
Hmm. That is good stuff. I love that case acronym. C is what again?
Clarity,
Clarity. Then A is action.
alignment.
Well, alignment. S is strategy. E execution.
Yep.
Executive routines. I
Mhm.
think that's fantastic because yes, I think whoever we are, wherever we are, we get caught up in one of those places.
Yes.
You don't have clarity, or there is clarity but no alignment, or there's both clarity alignment but no execution. And even with starting this podcast, I definitely was caught up in the execution piece. Like I knew what I wanted to do, I
Mhm.
knew what I wanted the purpose of this podcast, but just the routine or the execution to do it,
Mhm.
I was just lost. Or I knew what it was. I was really caught up in like the big scheme of things. Like all I saw was podcasts, like
Yeah.
platforms, technology, and I'm just like, I don't know how to. I know, but it's just so big. So I think we all are probably in one of those letters and figuring out how can we better approach it to get to where we need to be.
Yeah.
And with some of the things that you mentioned with the things that leaders struggle with, for example, diminishing their achievements, pursuing positions that don't align to their worth, I think some of that, what comes up is the word confidence. And, I'm just so, I work with individuals, leaders as well. And I do find that confidence is a big thing, even at the C suite level or senior level or so on. And you would think that folks who are at that level are just, I'm confident in all places, but there's still areas of confidence that I think we all struggle with. So I want to just point that out and to say
Mhm.
for those who are listening, no matter what level you're at, whether you're in school or a C suite leader, you don't have to have it all figured out. If you're not fully confident, that's okay. but taking steps forward. But if we were to talk about it, how can someone increase their confidence, or what are things that we might misunderstand about confidence that can actually impact the goals that we have for ourselves?
Yeah. So, how can well, let me first answer the second question about what are some misunderstandings that people might have about confidence. I think that for some people, they feel as if confidence is something that people are born with and not something that can be honed over time. But I will tell you that if you meet anyone who knew me back in the days, they would say I was always nice. I was always very nice. But my band nickname in high school, when I was a flagette in ninth grade, was Baby Bot. Anybody who knows Barney? Uh, that was me. My head was down, my voice was low, it was squeaky, and the older girls would be like, "Raise your voice, Daphne. Put your head up. This and that." And my band director said, "I can't hear you when you're doing your poem, when you're practicing your poem." I was practicing for the oratorical contest for Black History Month. And he's like, "I can't hear you. Louder, louder." So I had a lot of people who helped me to exude the confidence that people see today. So much so that when I came back home from college, the older girls from high school, who were like my big sisters, were like, "Oh my gosh, Daphne, oh, you grew up more. You're so confident." But I practiced. I got really involved in organizations in college. I had to be in the front of the room. My band director had forced me to be in the front of the room talking all the time. As flag captain, I was marching band vice president. But that skill. The other thing that happened when it came to confidence was my mission and my values pushed me to exude confidence in a different kind of way. I love social change. I have a knack to this day of working with at risk youth and teenagers
Mhm.
as well. Something that I now do on the side, just as mission focused work. But that means that I needed to get up in the room and demand their attention and inspire these young people. So I have done that over the years. Before I had my business, I was speaking in classrooms every year. If a friend had a class, I was like, "Hey, can I come talk in your class for free?" I was just operating on mission because I knew that young people needed to hear certain messages about inspiration, motivation. So operating on mission, right? And then my values, one of my values is to serve. So if I go to a networking event, I used to be really shy at networking events, but I am there to be a blessing. There are people at networking events who are alone. There are people at networking events who do not want to be there. There are people at networking events who have to be there for work and they don't want to talk to anybody, right? So I am there to say, "Hey, how are you doing? What brought you to the event? My name is Daphne. What's your name? Wonderful. Where are you coming from today?" That doesn't come from me. That comes from my value of serving and that showing up at the event. So if maybe you're an encourager, maybe you're someone who loves learning, maybe you're someone who loves to serve. Maybe you're someone who's really good at discipleship. Maybe you have like really good discernment around things. So I think allowing that confidence to come from you based on your values and or your mission at work, at networking, at events. It even shows up at like there was a barbecue the other day and somebody was there at the barbecue and I felt like she needed somebody to pour into her. So I just went up to her and started talking to her and gave her some good advice. She did need somebody to pour into her. So I think it's when I come from those places, then I don't feel as like shy or like I need to go somewhere in a corner and be on my phone or be on, go read a book or something away from people. It makes me want to go in and be on mission. So,
Mm. That's so good. I'm hearing a few things. One, when it comes to building confidence, practice. That if there's certain areas in your life that, and I resonate, I'm introverted. I'm not the life of a party when there's a party going on. I'm the person that has a one-on-one conversation with this person, and I call it day. But being able to practice certain things to allow you to gain more confidence. And so now, if I need to be the life of the party, I will be, because it's something I practice over time. Is it my natural go-to? No, but it's something that I know I can tap into because I've practiced it. mainly being a teacher. You are the life of the party every single day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And so it's something I've learned over the time, over years. I also love when you mentioned operating on mission and leading with your values. And it kind of goes back to it's not about me. So when I'm operating on mission, I'm really thinking about this other person. Or when I'm leading about my values, yes, I have my values, but how can it impact this other person? And I think that's such a great framework to take the attention off of me and what will they think and all those things to more of how can I impact this person to the right of me, left of me. Uh,
Mm,
and that's something that I've definitely had to learn over time. Like I learn from watching. I'm definitely an observer, and I learn from okay, what creates success. But sometimes I associate that with if this person's level of success, if that's how they got it, then I guess I have to do the same thing. And I realized that's not the case. That I can
yeah.
observe and watch, but I need to figure out what works for me, what's my mission, what's my values, and lead from that space versus, oh, okay, opening a multi-million dollar business is what this person's doing. I guess I have to do that too to create success when that
Hmm.
may not always be the case. So really learning what fits you and your style, but taking the tension off of you.
Yeah.
I want us to just end with a few quick questions. So Daphne, given all that you've shared, what would you say is one thing you wish you believed sooner about yourself?
Hmm. Mm. I think one thing that I wish I believed sooner about myself was that I would say maybe I was beautiful. And let me explain what I mean. So I was a tomboy growing up, and I kind of felt like I kind of operated like nobody's gonna look at me like nobody's gonna, talk to me like that or whatever, who might like me. My husband even share with me. It was like he said this yesterday. He was like, it sounds like you felt dismissed a lot. He was like, I don't ever want to be someone who dismisses you. That's what he told me yesterday. So the problem with that is when you don't feel like you're beautiful, one, there's a problem of, you don't think God made you to be beautiful. But I think it also impacts the confidence you exude
Mm-hmm.
because you're like, well, I'm in here. Nobody's going to really care about me like that. Nobody thinking about me. But when you know you out here walking in the purpose that God has for you, it should make you walk a little different. It should make you carry yourself a little different. Because not because I want somebody to holler at me, because I don't want nobody to, please don't holler at me. I'm married. Woo! Happily love my husband. But you start to exude a little bit more light when
Mm-hmm.
you understand that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. That
Yeah.
God has made you in a certain way to exude the glow that He's put in you, right? That energy, the light that He's put in you. It's just different. So I wish I would have known that a little earlier, because I think it would have made me more bold in the things that I'm doing for the kingdom, in an interesting way, right? That confidence.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that I think I wish I would have known soon. Now my husband tells me all the time. And then other people are like, they're drawn towards like that light. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Very good to meet you, my husband. But anyway, my husband, oh yeah, he's at home now. My husband. But anyway, but I wish I would have known that earlier though.
I think that is beautiful what you shared and truly vulnerable because and this may not apply to all women, but I do think a lot of women struggle with that. Just the idea of am I beautiful? Do people see me for who I am, the way I am?
Hmm.
And I appreciate you sharing that because I even resonate with that. I was a tomboy too.
Hmm.
Don't put a dress on me. But now I love dresses. They're so comfortable. Yes. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And so as we wrap up today, is there anything else that you want to share with the audience or any other ways that you want to encourage them before we go?
Yes. This is something that I shared in the last podcast that I recorded to on another podcast. Um, And it's that no matter what you've been through or where you are currently in the things that you hesitate about or that you feel that you need to work on, I believe that there is hope
Mhm.
for you to be able to operate more in your values, for you to be able to operate more in the mission that you desire to. As Leandra said, I've served hundreds of people, right? Over 400 clients in 4 countries in these 11 years. And I've seen a lot of transformation in the people that I've served. But I've also looked at, my colleagues and friends that I've grown up with, or looked to mentors or even celebrities, right? And their victory stories. There are lots of testimonies, and you can have a testimony as well for anything that you are working on. And so I just wanted to share that belief for anybody who's listening and walking through something, whether it be a health issue that you have to maintain more peace around, or confidence, or something else, that I do have hope and belief that you'll be able to walk in your values and in your mission, despite whatever it is that you're going through.
Absolutely. And I just want to add to that that all of our highs or lows in life, all the things that we love about ourselves, the things that we don't love, the ways that we've grown over time is part of our story. And even how Daphne was able to share her story, I'm sure it resonated with you. And it resonated because she shared the highs and the lows. So as we go through life, as we lead, as we figure out what does confidence look like for us, what is our mission, if we're in work, if we're in our business, then really thinking about how does this all, what lessons can I learn? But then also, how is this building my story that I can use to encourage other people and support
Mhm.
others? Before we go, Daphne, I would love for you to share ways that people can connect with you, or if they want to work with you, how can they do that?
Sure. You can connect with me on LinkedIn with my name, Daphne Valcin, Daphne, last name Valcin, Valcin. Or you can go to my website. It's valcinstrategicsolutions.com. But you can also get me if you go to daphnevalcin.com. It'll take you right to my website as well.
Lovely. And thank you so much for listening to this session. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. This is really a powerful conversation just around leading your values, confidence for anyone, whether you're an executive or you're in college. I really do hope this encourages you. And again, subscribe, and we'll love to connect with you as well. All right. Well, that's it. Again, this is the Freedom and Flow podcast. Continue to live free, embrace flow, and living your purpose. And I'll see you next time. Bye.
See you next time.